The NASCAR on Fox broadcasts suck. I said it. What 3 changes can Fox make right now that would fix all of these issues?
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, he's going! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Hey Gearheads, and welcome on into a special Saturday, March 2nd edition of Shifting Gears. Now, normally we talk about NASCAR news. Normally we have your comments, race analysis, interviews, etc. here on the program. But one issue has been consistently a problem for the last few weeks and years, and we're finally going to address it. The NASCAR on Fox broadcasts. So instead of just going on Twitter and aimlessly complaining, because although that's fun, it doesn't really get anything done according to Fox. So today, I'm calling out Fox directly, and I'm giving them a step-by-step guide on what changes they need to make right now to fix all of their broadcast issues. But before I do that, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video, and you can also log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. So to the Fox executives hopefully watching this, who am I? My name is Alan Bailey. I'm an award-winning broadcasting journalist and sports reporter who has been working in the Los Angeles radio market for 15 plus years. I spent 10 years of that working for a radio station called AM 830 KLAA, where I worked for the Los Angeles Angels on their sports radio station. During that 10-year stretch, I worked on, not exaggerating here, literally thousands of live sports broadcasts. And during that time, I quite literally won multiple awards. You don't believe me? Look up my resume. So I quite literally know what I'm talking about from a sports broadcasting standpoint, but I'm not done with my resume yet. I also spent 5 years calling races in San Bernardino, California at a little racetrack called Orange Show Speedway, which has been in existence for now over 76 years. I've also called races at Irwindale Speedway and other live sporting events. So believe me, Fox, when I tell you, I know what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm not just some random dude on the internet screaming at executives. And I want to be clear here, I'm not angry at Fox. They're just not doing the job to the highest quality that they can, and there are very simple changes that they can make right now that will fix all of their problems that cost you, literally, no money. Oh, now the executives at Fox are paying attention. They heard the no money thing, and woo, their ears perked up. Good. But in order to fix a problem, you first must identify what that problem is and admit that it's a problem. So let's talk about what's happening over at the Fox broadcasts with NASCAR and what needs to be done. Over the last few years, Fox has made some creative on-air changes, let's just say, that fans don't really agree with. Whether it's the goofy cartoon configurations of the drivers for an aesthetic purpose, I'm not really sure what Fox was going for here, but it didn't really work. Fans despise these cartoon caricatures, and so do the drivers and everybody in the NASCAR world. One of the other big problems is that for some reason, Fox is zooming way too close to these cars, and only showing a small portion of what's actually happening on the racetrack. Why is this? There are many theories, but regardless of the reason, it's very clear that fans do not like the extreme close-ups of the racing. So fix number 1 for Fox, very simple. Zoom out. Show more of the on-track racing action, because in NASCAR and in most sports, it's not about the extreme close-up on one person in particular. Sports like baseball, for example, do need extreme close-ups on the pitcher, the catcher, etc. for those moments in between plays. NASCAR doesn't have those moments. Instead, we need those extreme wide shots to show most of the racetrack, especially at the restrictor plate type racing that we see at Daytona, Talladega, and now Atlanta Motor Speedway. On the flip side of that, when you go to the smaller races like the LA Coliseum, don't zoom in, but instead show the runs going into the corners and the runs off the corners by doing wide shots. Yes, this does show more of the grandstands and more of what's happening at the racetrack, but the point of actually broadcasting live sporting events is to show what the atmosphere is like and what it's like at the venue for people who are quite literally in another state and unable to attend the actual sporting event. There have also been people within the NASCAR sphere that suggest that the people who work on the NASCAR on Fox broadcasts are not NASCAR fans and simply do not have the knowledge of the sport in order to put on a good broadcast. While we cannot confirm or deny these reports, I will say that if people within the Fox area who are broadcasting and working on these Cup races simply don't have the knowledge, a couple of ways that you could fix this is actually training up your staff by sitting them down with NASCAR Hall of Famers, which are literally on the payroll over at Fox, and getting kind of a NASCAR 101 class to some of the people working in the Fox booth. But if getting cameramen, producers, writers, runners, etc. to sit down to get a NASCAR 101 class is out of the realm of possibility, another very simple fix, and that's reason number 2, is simply talking to the drivers who are currently working for Fox. You have the likes of Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick on staff over at Fox right now up in the booth, and Kevin Harvick in particular just got out of the car a few months ago. He has extreme knowledge of what these cars do, what the racing does, and how to showcase everything that's happening in between. You don't think that he might have a thing or two to say on how these broadcasts are done? Talk to Kevin Harvick off camera to see what changes can be made to the broadcast to better incorporate the knowledge of the sport, particularly communicating that message to the fans. And the third point that I want to make is very simple. For the broadcasters up in the booth and the people back at the truck, in the moment of actually calling these races, call the action and the races through the window and not the TV monitor. There is a belief with Fox right now, and they're doing it with the NASCAR Truck Series, that simply putting cameras at the racetrack and sending that live image to a booth in North Carolina where, frankly, your on-air talent is in a sound booth calling these races live is good enough, and I will tell you, it's not. You look at broadcasting as a whole. The point of live sports broadcasting as a broadcaster is to paint the picture to the audience of what's happening at the racetrack. That's what I do when I'm in the booth. That's what multiple people do when they're in the booth. I've spent literally decades of my life studying the racecraft of NASCAR, studying what it is to be a driver. I even have a sim rig so that I can actually get on track virtually and understand what these race cars are doing so that I can be a better broadcaster, so that I can service you better. I'm not saying that Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, and Kevin Harvick need to get into a sim rig right now and do their homework more. Actually let them do their jobs. Don't mandate them to actually watch a TV in the booth. Instead, actually react to what's happening on the racetrack. You don't believe me? Take a look at this clip from PRN at Atlanta Motor Speedway just a few days ago.
They thunder out of turn number 4. They see the white flag. 1 to go. Blaney trying to hold off Kyle Busch and Daniel Suarez.
Rest assured, if either Busch or Suarez can get to the back bumper of Blaney, they're going to use their front bumper to get him out of the way. Ryan Blaney's lead is evaporating. Here comes Kyle Busch and Suarez.
A big-time push from Bubba Wallace to Kyle Busch. Wallace looks inside. Busch right up to Blaney's rear bumper. Crossover move. Kyle Busch up high. They're 3 wide for the lead. It's Daniel Suarez up high with Busch in the middle.
3 wide for the lead here in Atlanta, coming back to the start-finish line. Blaney down on the inside, and Ryan Blaney looks like he's going to pull it off by about 2 feet here. Now they're going at Daniel Suarez. They're going to credit with the win.
The thing you notice right there is that the guys at PRN called the racing action on track. They weren't looking down at a monitor calling the action, but instead looking at the window, looking and seeing the cars go by, moving their head, checking out everything happening on the racetrack to see if an accident were to happen or if anything else was happening, not staring at a laptop screen high above the racetrack calling the racing action like this. There is a grave difference between these two things. Heck, it's one of the reasons Dale Earnhardt Jr. is leaving NBC in 2024 for Amazon Prime and TNT/HBO Max. One of the things Dale Earnhardt Jr. said with his new TV contract is that he did not want to be in a booth or studio in North Carolina calling races, but instead wanted to be at the racetrack, feeling the energy of the crowd, dictating what's happening at the racetrack and communicating that to the audience. And I applaud Dale Earnhardt Jr. for doing it properly. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is a Hall of Fame driver, team owner, and well on his way to being a Hall of Fame NASCAR broadcaster, in my opinion. And even though in 2025 we're only going to get Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth for just 10 races, I think that those 10 races are going to be phenomenal from a broadcasting standpoint, and I'm very happy about that. I do think that ultimately NASCAR, and more specifically Fox, can make these changes right now if they choose to, but for some reason, the Fox broadcasts and the producers are choosing to do things this way. A lot of it is them simply burying their head in the sand and saying that they know best because I've won awards. I know what I'm talking about. I work for Fox. I'm all that. Check your ego at the door. You're not the only award-winning broadcaster who's worked in sports for 15 plus years that knows what they're talking about. I'm telling you, you're wrong. You're disservicing your fans. You're putting out an awful product that NASCAR is ashamed of, that the fans are ashamed of, and that's doing a disservice to your company. Fox, be better. I know you can. Make these small changes and actually put on a phenomenal broadcast like you did back in the early 2000s. I know you can do it. We've seen you do it before, and I know the new generation of people working behind the scenes at Fox might not have the experience of the early 2000s, but simply call up the people who worked on those broadcasts and get their opinion on how to make your broadcasts better. Because if Fox has no interest in improving the quality of their broadcast and their product, PRN and MRN do phenomenal jobs individually, and frankly, they deserve our attention and our ratings more than Fox does at this point. If you agree with me or disagree with me, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below for a little hot takes for the next episode, and make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come back for the next episode, as we put out episodes every Sunday night / Monday morning, Tuesday and Thursday here on the channel. And of course, you can always log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. Hopefully Fox makes some changes in a positive direction. But for now, for Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.